38 windows. That's how many apartments looked out onto the street where a woman was attacked for over half an hour, in the open, under streetlights bright enough to read by. Not one person came outside. Not one person called for help while it was happening. You've probably already decided you'd be different. That if it were your street, your window, your streetlight, you'd have picked up the phone in seconds. But here's what the people behind those 38 windows all had in common. Every single one of them assumed somebody else already had. And the more of them there were watching, the more certain each person felt that they didn't need to be the one who acted. Here's the story you've probably absorbed without ever questioning it. Those people were cold, indifferent. City life had numbed them to each other's suffering, and 38 windows just happened to contain 38 uncaring strangers. It's a comforting explanation, in a strange way, because it makes the event about them, a specific kind of person, in a specific kind of place, at a specific moment in history. Not you, not your street, not people you'd actually recognize as normal. You've probably also assumed that if more people are around when something goes wrong, you're statistically safer. More eyes, more hands, more chances someone steps in. But psychologists who study this moment reached the opposite conclusion. And once you hear their explanation, cold city dwellers stops being the answer. Here's where it gets specific. Researchers ran experiments designed to recreate that same feeling of being one witness among many. In one version, participants believed they were having a conversation with several other people through an intercom system, when one of the voices suddenly seemed to have a medical emergency. When participants believed they were the only other person listening, the overwhelming majority acted immediately. But when participants believed several other people were also listening, that number dropped sharply. And in some cases, people took so long deciding whether to act that the experiment had to be stopped before they responded at all. Nothing about the emergency had changed. The only thing that changed was how many other people each person believed were also witnessing it. Researchers gave this a name: diffusion of responsibility. The responsibility to act doesn't disappear when a crowd is watching. It just gets quietly divided among everyone in it, until each individual person's share feels small enough to ignore. And there's a second piece to it. When people are uncertain whether a situation is really an emergency, they look to others for cues. If everyone else looks calm, or looks away, or doesn't move, that becomes evidence that maybe nothing is actually wrong. Which means a crowd doesn't just divide responsibility. It can actively convince each person there was never anything to respond to in the first place. So here's what that actually means, once you stop thinking of those 38 windows as something unusual. It means the people behind them weren't cold. They were ordinary. They were doing exactly what the evidence says most people do in that exact configuration of circumstance: watching, waiting, assuming, staying still. Which also means it wasn't really about that neighborhood, or that decade, or that city. It's about a mechanism sitting quietly inside anyone who has ever been part of a group watching something uncertain happen, including you. And if that's true, then the version of yourself you were so sure would act, the one who'd have called immediately, no hesitation, that version might only exist in situations where you're alone. The moment other people enter the frame, the math inside your head changes without your permission. Maybe the uncomfortable question was never why didn't they help. Maybe it's how many rooms have I already been in without realizing I was one of the 38. You walked into this video certain you'd be the exception. Almost everyone does. But the evidence was never about weak people or strong people. It was about how a crowd can quietly turn someone should do something into someone else's will. And if a room full of strangers can make you stay silent without you noticing it happening, what about the moments when the group isn't strangers at all? When it's the people you already know, the ones you'd never expect to feel invisible around? That's next.